Okay, so today we're going to be going over the circular flow model and expansionary and contractionary fiscal policy. But the first thing you've got to look at is what fiscal policy is. So what fiscal policy is when the government takes action in order to stimulate or slow down the economy. Okay, so what they're trying to do is if we have an expansionary policy, the whole idea is we need it whenever there's unemployment, which is also a recession. So whenever we have unemployment or we're in a recession, the economy needs to go. So we need something expansionary, green, like a car would go when it's green. So the idea of green during a recession means that the economy is not going to get going itself. So what I mean by going is everything in green means the money is circulating. People are buying from each other. The person at the product market gets paid. When someone comes to shop there, then they order from the business of the firm who produces the item. Then the business of the firm pays their labor, or they pay for raw materials, and then they pay the consumers either through wages, rent, earning interest, or by profit. So these are the four types of income that will happen from the factor resource market, and that money will go to the consumers of the households. Whenever the consumers of the households get their income in the form of wages, rent, interest, or profit, then they're going to go spend it in the product market. So the circular flow, the money continues to move around. Okay? So whenever we go to spend our money, that money is going to be spent as consumption. So capital C stands for consumption. The capital I with the lowercase g, that stands for gross private investment. Okay, gross means that it's the full amount. It hasn't had anything subtracted. And private means that it's not the government. That means it's people doing their investment. Okay, so gross private and investment. So what investment means is that consumers are going to purchase items that will help them in their business side. So if you buy a computer and use it at your place of business, that's an investment. Okay? And those investments are what's going to lead to capital increasing. So whenever you have financial capital, you're going to purchase real capital. Now, if you don't have the money to purchase real capital, then the interest rate is going to dictate what part or how much gross private investment will be out there. And that's monetary policy. We'll get to that later. So this interest is actually income. When you put your money in the bank and the bank pays you interest on the amount of money you have in the bank, that's an income form of interest. So later when we do monetary policy, if interest rates are low, people are more likely to go borrow and invest in the economy. So that's one way to stimulate it, to get people spending in the circular flow model, which is right here. So whenever people go to spend money, whenever people get their income, they're going to pay taxes on their income. Whenever businesses or firms sell things, they're going to pay a business or a corporate income tax right here to the government. And then the government in exchange is going to provide government services or infrastructure to both of those parties, the supply side and the demand side. Now, when that happens, the government will get those taxes and they're going to exchange those as in services, but they're also going to go out in the product market and spend, and they're also going to hire labor, buy land, and get the factors of production from the factor market. So this is called government spending. So the two ways that our government can take action in the form of fiscal policy is to do an expansionary or contractionary policy. The government can only do taxes or government spending. These are the only two things the government can do. And Congress is in charge of these budgets. So this is lawmakers, this is government. That's it. That's all they can do. They can raise or lower taxes, or they can spend money or not spend money. And when that happens, whenever we have unemployment or recession, we want GDP to increase. We want aggregate demand to increase. So let's look at expansionary fiscal policy first. So if we want GDP or aggregate demand to go up, and our only two forms of action to take when the economy won't fix itself are to alter taxes or government spending. So in the circular flow model, if we want money to increase its circulation, the government would want to decrease your taxes. So if we decrease taxes in the form of GDP, so say your taxes are lowered, that's going to make your paycheck bigger, isn't it? So if your paycheck is bigger, your consumption would increase. So, just like with any mathematical formula, it's going to look like this. So, in this equation, you have sig x equals aggregate demand. That's going to be what you use to solve a whole lot of aggregate demand issues of how we can fix a recession. So I know if taxes are going down, consumption goes up. So if consumption on this side of the equation is going to increase, what's going to happen to aggregate demand? It's going to increase as well, isn't it? So if one of these components increases and aggregate demand goes up, which is this side of our model, then all of a sudden, if consumption is going up, that's good, isn't it? The money's going to flow through the economy. So that's going to stimulate the economy. So when you hear the term stimulus package or economic expansion, things like that, green means go. That's an expansionary fiscal policy. So we see it right here. Taxes decrease, consumption goes up. So both sides of our equation happen. So if demand is going up, if you go to buy products, they have to make them, don't they? So GDP is going to go up. Our gross domestic product, what we produce, will increase if we get people to go out and buy it. So this is what we call a demand-driven economy. If people are out buying it, someone's going to make it for you, right? If people are in line to buy it, someone's going to make it. So our GDP is going to go up. Now, if you remember FDR and the New Deal, that involved the government. And it also involved government spending. So government spending, if we look over here, if our government goes and spends in the product market, say they buy a bunch of concrete to build a sidewalk in Denton, Texas, then that person who built the sidewalk gets paid. And then they go to the product market. They get paid in the form of wages. The government spending goes here. Guess what? They pay wages here, and consumers get that. What do? They go to the grocery store. Then they buy bread from Mrs. Baird's, and Mrs. Baird's buys wheat from the farmer, and the whole thing starts to go again. So now our other form of expansionary policy, government spending, will increase. That's going to lead to aggregate demand going up as well. So if government spending goes up, then aggregate demand will go up. So you see both these are in green, and these are both ways that our government can stimulate the economy. The biggest example of this one is government spending. That was with FDR and the New Deal. So in all these four places, these are all expansionary policies to get the economy stimulated again. That makes sense so far? Okay.